Do you sometimes feel burned out at work? Or you don't feel too great or a bit, as you say, under the weather? Well, when you now think, oh, he's talking about burnout, isn't he? Yes, I am, but not from the angle you think. We talked about burnout in the past. However, especially during the last couple of weeks and months, we received multiple emails. Also, thank you very much for anyone showing up to my talk during the Future People Development Expo and Fair we had in Hamburg in northern Germany just last week and addressing this issue once more. Yes, we had an episode about burnout, especially regarding people who work in organizations, but so far, and of course, it's important to talk about that. However, it's also important that there is something which is called leadership burnout. And today we're going to talk about the hidden risk of leadership burnout. So, hello and welcome. What about leadership burnout? Where does it come from? Is it actually a thing? And what can we do about it? Leadership burnout means very important. I'm going to quote a real world topic here, and I'm going to show you a real world article. Very important here under the Fair Use, Fair Dealing Act in the US and the UK. I'm allowed to show these articles in the German speaking area. It's just the quotation right, so I just can prove to you this is nothing I just made up. This is actually part of the actual discussion we have at the moment. At the moment, we are talking about leadership burnout more and more. You see, this article is from December 2025, especially in the first quarter of this year. The numbers are rising again. More and more people say, I'm not feeling too well and I don't know where this comes from. And now we have to talk about where does this come from? What can we actually do? So the situation at the moment is people say, and especially leaders say, the complexity is getting out of hand. And one aspect is mentioned particularly, and that is AI. And by the way, not in a negative way. People did not approach me and say, as a leader, I don't want AI, or as a leader, I don't think we should use AI. Anyone sees that AI is crucially important for businesses. However, people also said, I really don't see how to structurally implement that without either running tremendous risks or what should we do about how to mitigate any kind of risk we see. They say the complexity is there. I just give you an example. Just last week, I gave a talk including interactive elements for leaders who are all in the senior executive leadership team of a large, well-known international corporation, stock exchange listed. And these people who all make their six-digit amount of money, very well deserved, suddenly one of them said, oh, I just found out, by the way, Copilot, did you know, Niels? Did you know that Copilot can read screenshots? It actually understands the picture. And so, first, yes, I did know that. And second, that's not particularly new. That is something which is at least 2 or 3 years old, if not older. When we start at the very beginning, it's probably almost five, depending on which context you see, maybe even 10 years old. So you see that people didn't even use the technology, despite the fact it is their job to tell their people in their teams you should implement AI absolutely anywhere. The other aspect of that is that they say the complexity of initiatives we have at the moment is getting out of hand. They simply don't know how to put all of this together. And when people say, hey, there aren't that many projects, they say that's often one person's point of view. When you are a department lead, probably you think this is the one project, but we have 8 different ones at the same time. And here we get to the next critical aspect, it's role inflation. You're suddenly a leader of your department, and then you are a team lead within a certain project. And then, of course, you help this other team also. So you're a team lead there. And then you are the deputy team lead of someone else because when they are not there, you have to help them when they are, for example, going for their paid annual leave. Then you help them there. Also, you are on a different steering committee. You are in a task force. You're also in the sourcing council, and so on and so forth. The role inflation that anyone suddenly has 11 different roles with oh so amazing titles without actually knowing what they're doing there sometimes is becoming an issue. Because people now think, okay, I have these titles, so I have to do something. I need to be present. And what happens here is the so-called permanent visibility. The permanent visibility means people show up to meeting, and let's face it, you have been there as well. You are in the meeting, anyone has turned off their camera, anyone has turned off their sound, some person is blabbing around with their PowerPoint presentation, no one's listening, they're all doing their emails or they're working on something else, and as soon as someone asks a question, you actually know. When the presenter asks a question, you know that the people weren't listening because the answers are so bland that you are absolutely aware of the fact they didn't prepare for the meeting, they are not up to date on the topic, and they are not giving proper answers. They say something like, oh, yeah, I think you made a good point here. I think it's crucially important that we leverage the power of the community and we need to put the resources into goal oriented use to achieve maximum impact. Yeah, well, great. Another 35 seconds of my life, which I will never get back with absolutely zero content. So here we are with the first aspect. The situation is on the way of getting slightly out of hand, especially when economic pressure rises. Sometimes people start to play political games in organization. They fear about their jobs. They don't know if they find a new job, and so on and so forth. So you see that these indicators are suddenly becoming extremely relevant. When we now look into what's going on from here, we have to see what are the indicators we can actually see. And when you read the article, which I linked in the beginning, I showed you in the beginning another article as well, roughly three quarters say they feel somehow used at work. And used does not mean they say, I feel underpaid or I feel undervalued. They simply say it is just a bit too much on all ends at the moment. And these are the very early signs of something is going wrong. And this time, unlike the times before, I'd like to address the issue way before we get into the next crisis. Let's face it, before, when the whole burnout aspect didn't even exist. What did we do when people suddenly called in sick because they said they just can't handle it anymore? We said, you're too weak. Not everyone is hard enough. Not everyone is tough enough. It's a tough business. Some people can do it, some people can't, and maybe you are just too weak. So here you are. These indicate 75% at the moment, three quarters say they feel somehow used. And that's a very clear indicator we have to do something. And one aspect of that is hybrid work. And very important is hybrid work in general is good. So the idea, before anyone makes an allusion to that or makes something up, the idea is not to call everyone back into the office. That is not the solution to your leadership issues. So the hybrid approach is a good approach. However, when you now say go for it, many people say, I never learned how to lead from a distance. So they somehow figured out how to lead on site. And even that, I can only remember you of one number which I frequently mentioned here. The CMI, the Chartered Management Institute in London, found out that more than 80%, I think it was 82, 83% of the leaders, never had a single minute of leadership education. Surprise, surprise, people don't know what they do when they haven't learned it. So you see that the hybrid approach is that people say, I have to lead people on a distance, but I don't have the toolbox for it. On top of that, another aspect of hybrid work is that leaders often say, look, I often leave it earlier. Sorry, I leave it later, but when I go home, I just do a couple of emails. You know these now, right? You just sit down, let's do two or three more emails, two or three, or yeah, I mean, maybe we can just go through the inbox, right? Just 10 emails. Oh yeah, and a bit of calendar work and Outlook, and oh yeah, updating my task. Yeah, and oh, I also have to update the IT project in Jira. Yeah, here we go. And oh, I have to update the documents in on our SharePoint server as well, and I have to flag that in the internet. And oh, then we have Monday.com where I have to update the plan as well. And oh, we also have a Microsoft project file from a different project. I think I use that as well, so I have to update that. Bit of internal communication. Microsoft Teams here. Yeah, I have a couple of unanswered messages, so I'm going to answer that. And suddenly, 10:30 p.m., and you had 0 minutes of recovery. The hybrid approach needs to be taught to people because otherwise, people will, especially when they're very engaged, keep on working until they basically drop off the chair. The hybrid approach has many positive ways. You can say you are remote first. You can say you are hybrid. If you say you are on-site only, you will struggle the most to find talent because that for most people is the least attractive approach of work today. The hybrid approach means you need to have rules in place how people should and should not work. And some organizations had very drastic approaches. Well-known German car manufacturer simply said for anyone who is not on the highest three leadership levels after 6 p.m., they can neither send nor receive emails after 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. Just cutting them off because they said we tried it the soft way, but they just kept doing it, and our numbers of people calling in sick just go through the roof. And that, of course, cannot be the case. So hybrid work needs certain guidelines to put it in place properly. And on top of all of that, you need to get under control the amount of change projects you have. And I very often hear, look, we don't have that many change projects. And then I talk to the people who are on the receiving end, and they say, well, the department lead thinks that. And for him or her or that person, that's correct because they have one or maybe two change projects. And then we have another change project with the IT department, and another one with a neighboring department, another one with compliance, one with the CHRO, one with the CRO, one with the CEO, one with the CIO, one with the financial department, one with the SAP project, and so on and so forth. So they're going through an uncontrolled number of changes, and they are totally non-synchronized. Every single project thinks, oh, it's not that bad. It's just us, isn't it? That is becoming a massive issue. Change is inevitable and change is omnipresent. We fully agree here, at least I hope, because you will not change that there is change. You either change and adapt or you will be replaced in one way or the other. However, when there's too much change and direction gets completely lost, people lose the purpose of what they do because they think we're just juggling 11 balls, although we were trained to juggle three. And we just try to pick up the ones that fall down and try to pretend no one ever saw that it fell down. So you see that change is inevitable, but still it needs to have a proper steering. And the question now is, how can we do better? If you now want to implement it in a better way, very important is first, you have to make a decision. And the first decision is you need to address this issue. You need to address that leadership burnout is a thing. And just as a hint, the mental health webinar for $49, pound, euros, whatever currency you have, is not what is going to change your organization. It might be a starting point to get awareness in the room, to make people aware of what they probably see or feel, to probably make people aware of maybe when you feel anything off that maybe you should get help, but then there needs to be an offer. And the offer needs to be a professional one, anything from training to coaching, anything you can offer up to psychotherapy, proper therapy, led by professional counselors, not by people who feel entitled to make comments on other people's lives, professionally educated, professionally licensed counselors. The offer needs to be there. Because if the offer is not there, your culture very quickly turns toxic towards some people are hard enough and others are not. And when you go down that route, you might win a couple of days, maybe weeks in the short run. But midterm to long term, you're not only going to lose people, you're going to get the reputation that in your organization, no one cares. No one cares really about what people do. No one cares about how people feel. No one cares about how people actually are doing in your organization. And that usually is a massive, massive damage to your employer branding. And from there, everything goes downhill. The top point, however, is always one aspect. And this aspect sounds horribly complex, and it's not when you really implement it properly, and that is leadership science. Most leaders simply have never learned what they're doing. And that is an ongoing issue, as I mentioned before. When more than 80% of all leaders never had a single minute of leadership training, according to CMI, the Chartered Management Institute, the articles are still all online there. When you see that and you still don't do anything, here are the news. Whenever anyone told you how to put a water pipe into the ground, you don't know how to do it properly. Whenever anyone told you how to build a wall properly, you will build a wall that collapses sooner or later because no one taught you how to do it properly. When no one ever taught you how to tie your shoelaces, as a child, you're not going to figure it out on your own. You won't even have the idea that shoelaces actually exist until someone tells you and tells you how to actually tie them properly. This is an extremely important aspect. People need to learn the skill. They need to learn the craft. They need to learn the science. And that does not mean boring lectures. That does not mean boring papers. That does not mean you need to have a scientific thesis about this. It means you can offer anything which leads people to the solution to learn leadership properly. Of course, you need a qualified professional, someone who has the practical experience, but also the qualification on a scientific basis, because only having the real world experience means someone will tell you, I did it this way, you do the same, it works. And that's, of course, nonsense. You can't copy leadership from one person to the other. If you only have the science bit, you're great in theory, but you don't know the real world practice. And that's another issue. When you have both together, and then you're a bit entertaining, bit of a nice person maybe, and bring it along in a charming, entertaining way, that's how people love to learn. And when you put that in place, your risk of leadership burnout will be way lower and everything gets better from there. And I wish you all the best doing that in your organization. And when you now say, I have a couple of questions about this, feel free to contact me anytime. First, of course, feel free when you just watch me on YouTube, feel free to leave a like here. Thank you very much for doing so. Subscribe to my channel, put the little bell in there as well so you get updates as soon as a new video is online. We update this quite frequently, almost every week. Sometimes even every day. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Of course, feel free to leave a comment here. I'm looking forward to our discussions. And of course, when you liked it, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, when you're following there, leave a review there, 5 stars. Thank you very much for doing so. And of course, on top of that, I'm always happy when you, of course, then return and recommend this channel to your friends, colleagues, on social media, anywhere. I'm always looking forward to growing the audience here because we do this advertising free and we will keep doing so because we need to get the information out there. Education is about participation, and that's why we're here. So when you now say, I'd like to have leadership tips more frequently, more than weekly, very happy to do so. Go to the YouTube channel. We have YouTube Shorts. That's why I told you put not only the subscribe button in there, but click on it and put the little bell in there because then you get a short notification either on your computer or on your mobile phone that a new video is online. The YouTube Shorts, we invest a lot of time in there. YouTube Shorts means short leadership tips, 30 to 60 seconds, and we give you at least one per day. Sometimes we had days where we put out three, four, five, six. We have a lot of experts there. It's me, it's other experts we bring in. So we invest a lot of time and effort to get you the best advertising free knowledge you can ever have. And of course, you can also follow me on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Feel free to go on my website, by the way, when you need a professional trainer, speaker, coach, consultant, mentor, project interim manager. Feel free to get in touch. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and working together with you if you like to. And of course, if you now say, I'd like to get in touch, but just have a chat with you because I can't put our company problems into the YouTube comment section. I can understand that, of course. Feel free to send me an email. Thank you very much for the great discussions we had during the last couple of weeks. nb@nb-networks, nb@nb-networks.com is my email address. I'm looking forward to hearing from you there as well. And of course, we offer live sessions. When you want to go for one of our live sessions, we only announce the live sessions via our leadership letter. We had one just last Friday, very successful one, great exchange. Thank you very much. expert.nb-networks.com. As soon as you sign up there with your email address, you receive, no worries, only one email every Wednesday morning. It's 100% content, ad-free guarantee, so feel free to sign up there. You get full access to all the articles, all the podcasts, all the videocasts, everything in the English and German language, fully available, fully for free. It's all content, no advertising. And of course, we only announce the next date and time, plus the access link for the next live session only via the leadership letter. And of course, feel free to connect with me. Go on LinkedIn, follow me there. Do the proper connecting. Don't do the follow thing. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Instagram if you like. Put a like on Facebook if you like. And of course, you can also subscribe to my channel. As I just mentioned before, I'm always happy to be in contact with you. And by the way, no worries. If you contact me, I answer every single message within 24 hours or less. So there's a guarantee for a quick response. The most important thing, however, is always the last bit that I say in every episode. Apply, apply, apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspects that you obviously want to see in your organization. So at the end of this podcast, as well as at the end of this video cast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.